Lee, are we recording?
Recording in progress.
Thank you. Good evening and welcome to the Planning Board meeting for Wednesday, March 27th, 2024, in the 1820 Courtroom, 26 Court Street at 7 p.m. Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, an act relative to extend certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, signed into law on March 29, 2023. This meeting will be conducted via remote and in-person participation. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and/or parties with a right and/or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the town's website. First on our agenda this evening, I see we don't have any minutes or covenants. We have Form A plans. We have A4873, Pine Hills LLC, lot line adjustment map 78B, lot 291 and 292. Questions, comments from board members? Yes, David.
Is the larger parcel S292 open space?
So both of the parcels would be open space. So what this is taking one open space parcel, creating one open space that's retained by the Pine Hills, but that smaller open space piece you see is going to be given to the homeowners association as a buffer for them. So it's still all open space, it's just one piece that's going to be segmented and given to the control of that neighborhood as
Okay.
open space.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
I would make approval, move to approve A4873 line adjustment.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? David?
Yes.
Ms. Keen?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Next, we have Form A Plan A4874, AD Makepeace Company, lot line adjustment, map 115, lot 1-524.
If I could, just
Yes,
a
sir.
shout out to 80 Makepeace for doing this. So we asked them, and not required, if they were willing to work with the town on a potential site for a future fire station. They agreed to do that at no cost to the town. Town meeting voted to accept the land as a gift. So this is the A&R plan that just simply outlines that parcel that will be, again, this is one step. So we have a draft deed. Once the deed is approved by both people with that, and this A&R plan will go to record, and the town will have this site for a future fire station.
I'd like to ask a question.
Yes, please.
So, Lee, on our map,
Yeah, let me just use mine.
oh, thank you. We get a little reverb here. On our map, could you just point out, you see the map in front of us, where those high-tension wires come through?
Yeah, so it's just to the right, so let's
So I see Bourne Road, the proposed lot.
yeah, let me,
and- I see NSTAR Electric Company.
Well, I'll just say, having been there, you know, that is the easement.
yeah. So-
Right, I just wanted Lee
Yeah.
to point it out, but thank
Okay.
you, David.
Yeah.
Are you just trying to bring up the map? Is that it? It says it right on here, but I just want
He's just trying to share it? Yeah.
Oh, I just had to get have it up too. So if we look at the screen, and I think the best thing to look at is if you look at the insert, which has that that aerial that's underneath it, you can see that swath. So you can see the swath that runs along the property, and that's the easement. So the
Right.
easement really is just to the north of this piece, just up in that area right there, just to the north. I guess my outline doesn't work so well.
And it doesn't impact this
No,
piece of
no,
property at all?
No, but there's actually an issue, there was an issue, the original piece we talked about went all the way up to that dotted line, but there would be the need for an access easement also, so we reconfigured the lot so that there was no need for an access easement for the Red Brook people or anything related to the power line, so all of that's off this site.
Great, so that's the reason we're here today. This is reconfigured. Thank you.
Okay, and yes, I'm sure, as David is aware, as am I, of all the hard work with the building committee and the fire chief and Makepeace and everybody involved in the process. So this is a fantastic opportunity for the town, and I very much appreciate what's been done here across the board. It's about time South Plymouth eventually receives an updated fire station. David, did you have any further comments?
I was just going to second all of the thanks you just passed along to many who made this work. But I want to specifically thank you, Tim, for being a stubborn cuss. You can change that word. Insisting on it with Red Brook. So I will say a lot of people worked, but Tim was really in a leadership role pushing for this. So thank you, Tim.
Well, thank you. It was my pleasure. Okay, if there aren't any other comments or questions, I'll entertain a motion, please.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Steve?
Yes.
Ms. Keen?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Myself? Yes? And Rosemarie, I'm sure you would be a yes, correct? Okay.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you. All right, next on our agenda this evening, we have Plymouth Center Steering Committee appointment. Bob Edwards is the applicant. Is Bob on Zoom this evening?
Can't hear.
I think he's muted.
All right, how about now?
Now we can hear you, sir. How are you?
Good, can you see me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm well, thank you.
Do you have anything you'd like to say at all, sir, to the board?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very interested in an opportunity to contribute to the town that I grew up in and am back living in, and you know, to the extent that I can be of help to the planning board, specifically with regard to the Plymouth Center area. I think that I just think that's a great opportunity for me to help town and the planning committee specifically.
Great, thank you. Do the board members have any questions for Mr. Edwards? Steve?
Good evening, Mr. Edwards.
Hi, how you doing, Steve?
I'm going to ask this question because I ask this question of everyone applying from any of the village steering committees. So what is your understanding as to the role of the Plymouth Center Steering Committee?
Well, that's a good question. Now, I'll follow that up with another question. It's like, how can I be the most helpful in this role? I'm not 100% clear what the role is, but I would ask you to help me understand the role and how I can contribute to it the most.
Well, have you attended any of the Village Center Steering Committee meetings?
I have not. I can confess I have not. You know, I haven't done anything with the town from a governance standpoint, and I just happened to see the opportunity that you were looking for individuals who wanted to throw their hat in the ring and help participate in planning, in particular in the downtown Plymouth area. So that really just caught my eye, and I thought that would be something that would align certainly with my history and some of my professional skills.
Well, I'm sure your professional skills. I'm very familiar with Wolf Greenfield, so I know.
Are you?
So I know you've worked with a very quality group of people there. Can you tell me, where do you live in the downtown village center?
Well, I'm not living in the downtown center now. I grew up there on Whiting Street. Right now, I live in the Pine Hills. I don't know if that keeps me playing in this role, but right now I'm in the Pine Hills. We built a house here about 5 years ago. But I grew up in downtown on Whiting Street, down at the Boys Club, and the old downtown where prior to any malls, it was quite the nice spot at the time. So I a little nostalgic about that. I realize it's a whole new time, a whole new place, and that said, I still think I could be of help, however best I could be. I'm not sure how how I can contribute or what you would want in this role, but I'm happy to hear and do my best.
Great, thanks very much.
Yep.
Okay, any other questions for Mr. Edwards? Yes, please. Ms. Key. Let me shut this one off.
So, Mr. Edwards, I just wanted to assure you that your fellow committee members will orient you in no time flat as to what your duties and responsibilities are. And maybe if you
Good.
keep it open-ended, you will have many duties and responsibilities on the Plymouth Center Steering Committee. They're a wonderful group, and I wish you the best.
Great, thank you.
Anybody else? Yes, David, please.
The mystery button. First, I'd like to, thank you for your interest in participating in town governance. And we welcome everybody, and that kind of energy is needed, and hard work, roll up your sleeves, and perhaps it's a first step toward continuing involvement in the town.
Sure.
But just to
Sure.
clarify, you now live in the Pine Hills?
I do, yes.
So you don't live within the downtown area?
I don't. I hope that doesn't disqualify me, but I don't currently.
We saw that you grew up here and have fond memories and may spend a lot of time downtown, but your home right now is in a different part of Plymouth.
It is.
Okay.
It is. But,
Okay,
yeah.
okay, thank you for that clarification.
Yep.
Okay. I just want to thank you for volunteering, obviously. You'll be spending, obviously, a lot of time with that committee, and the first thing I think you might want to do is get a copy of the master plan for the Plymouth Downtown Steering Committee and casually read through it. And you can probably get that from the planning department
It's on the website.
and on the website also. So,
Okay, yeah, I'll look at.
all right.
Good.
Do you have any questions for him? No, okay. All right, well, I'll entertain a motion. Mr. Hartman, did you have something? No? I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve Mr. Edwards for the Plymouth Center Village Steering Committee.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? David?
Yes.
Ms. Keen?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Congratulations and welcome to the Plymouth City Steering Committee. Make sure you get sworn in at the clerk's office, please.
Yep.
All right. Congratulations and thank you very much.
You all. Have a good night.
Okay. Next on our agenda this evening, we have ZBA 3467, Chase Bank, 35 Commerce Way. We have an informal hearing to address condition number 6 regarding signage. Lee, the petitioners on Zoom?
Petitioners here, online.
Okay.
Chase Bank at 35.
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Thank you. I can't see that. Can you see me? Oh, here I am. Here we go.
We can see you.
All right, great. How are you tonight?
Great, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Okay.
So I just, as I understand it, there's a special permit in place for the signage at this complex. And we need to have the informal hearing with you first and then an informal hearing with CBA.
Okay, you going to go through the signage, or,
Sure.
please?
So the scope of the signage is they'll have a non-illuminated panel in the tenant sign. It's a metal, just a replacement panel in that big tenant directory. And then they've proposed 3 wall signs, one on the front elevation facing Commerce Way at 37 square feet, halo illumination. And then a similar sign on the right side facing the parking lot, a little smaller at 21 square foot, and that'll be halo illumination as well. And then a third sign on the rear elevation, 37 square foot, halo illumination. And then on the drive-through elevation, a couple pages back, they'll just have that ATM unit, and the logo and the lettering does illuminate on the ATM unit.
Okay.
So that's their proposal, and I did have a comment on the application when we submitted it from Spencer, that the total square footage is consistent with the other tenants in the plaza there, so it didn't appear to be anything that's not similarly there for the other clients and other tenants.
Okay, is that it?
That's it.
Great, okay, thank you. Lee, do you have anything to add?
So I'm going to let Colleen do this one.
Colleen? Hi,
I like
Colleen.
to see these familiar names.
Staff is in support of the project because it is.
We can't hear
Can't hear you, Colleen, sorry.
Staff is in support of the project because it is consistent with the other projects in that development of Carpet Landing. Do you have any questions regarding the proposal?
Okay. And we'll bring it back to the board unless there's somebody on Zoom that wishes to speak on it, which I don't see anyone, right? Am I correct?
No, there's one person
One
on, but I
person?
don't see them looking to be recognized.
Okay. I will bring it back to the board for questions and comments. David?
A couple. The first is a question, because the drawings are dated 2022, so it's almost 2 years later. Why did it take this long to get to us? But then the second comment is, I'm in support of this. It's certainly a recognizable, iconic sign for Chase, and the combined allowable spaces for signs, square footage is 128 square feet, and the proposed is 95, so the combined total of the signs is still well within our guidelines. I like the look of them, but I do have the question, I don't know whether Lee or Colleen would know why it took this long to get submitted for approval, but I'm in support.
Thank you.
They did come before you guys, before the informal for the building. So the building was probably, the signs were built around the same time or designed around the same time. So between the, going through the process for the building and building, they're under construction right now. That would be the delay for the 2022, unless Heather has another option.
I just know that projects like this take so long, especially if they're doing any kind of building. The lease was signed, I think the lease was signed in 2022, so it just, these projects just take a very long time.
Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Keen, anything?
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Brandy. So the sign is, the LED signs are completely in compliance with the dark sky?
Yeah, yes, so they won't be they can't be internally lit, they have to be halo lit, and yes, they have to comply with the dark sky bylaw.
And are they illuminated from dusk to dawn? In other words, in the middle of the night, are the signs illuminated?
So Heather, that's a question for you. Are the signs illuminated at night, in middle of the night?
Well, if there's a restriction on the time, of course, Chase would adhere to whatever the restriction of the time is. I do know that the ATM probably will be lit. The topper on the ATM would be lit 24 hours a day, but if there's a restriction, hour after close, or any type of time restriction, they would adhere to that.
So there is no such restriction, but if you wanted to recommend that, you could.
I was just wondering if there's any reason to light something in the middle of the night, save electricity, and make it a little bit less in your face in that neighborhood, because it's quite that neighborhood has been developing very rapidly.
Could I ask if there's any, since there is an existing special permit for the signage in the plaza and for other things in the plaza, has that restriction, do other tenants have that restriction, and what would that be? Because Chase would follow what the other tenants had, or if there's something specific in the special permit that outlines what the illumination hours are, they would adhere to that.
There's no restriction on any of the other signs there.
So my reason for bringing some of these things up is that we are a little forward-thinking, possibly, so that we can, as we rapidly develop certain areas of the town that used to be forested, that we would think about how we're illuminating it at night when there's no reason to illuminate. So that's the reason I brought it up, but again, there is no restriction.
Okay, thank you. Steve?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm looking at signs E02 and E03, both of which appear to be internally illuminated with various numbers of LEDs. Am I misreading those?
Well, the way that they're installed, they do have LED lighting, but the way that they're installed off the building so that the light shines behind it. So they're not installed flush against the building, and the light does not show through the face of the letters. They're installed off the building so that the light shines behind it and gives like the glow effect.
Lights are behind, it's what we call a halo lit.
Right, okay. Yeah.
And we see that in a number of signs in Plymouth.
Yeah.
Just wanted to double check that. Okay, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
That was my question, Steve, and in all reality, it's actually, the way it's set up, to me, it's still internally illuminated, even though the light is coming from the back. There's a box with lights, but it's in keeping with all the other building signs in the entire area, right?
The entire town.
In the entire town.
Fairly
So,
popular design alternative to internally lit.
now, this is the building that's right next to Harbor One Bank, so there's some competition coming in. But yes, that would have been my only question or comment. Sir, Rosemarie, anything?
I do not, thank you.
Okay. If there's no other questions or comments, I will entertain a motion.
I move to recommend approval to the ZBA.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Anybody?
Was there a second?
No.
I heard the motion. I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to recommend approval to the Zoning Board of Appeals with staff's recommendations in the report. All in favor? Steve?
Yes.
Ms. Keen?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Good luck at the
Great.
ZBA.
Thank you so much.
You're very
Thank you very
welcome.
much. Nice to see you, Colleen.
Okay, next on our agenda, we have ZBA 2946.
So if I
Which
could,
is-
yeah, they've asked to postpone
Yep.
action. I think it's because of some of the comments from the steering committee as well as the town engineer. So it's an informal, there's no need to vote to continue the hearing. So as soon as they're ready, we'll put it back on the next available agenda.
So that tentatively is being moved to April 10th.
I wouldn't want to say until
Not
they're
even
ready.
say.
As soon as
Okay.
I say that, we're chasing people, so we schedule it when the information comes in.
All right, thank you. Other business, we have a monthly master plan update.
Very briefly, the Master Plan Committee met with 3 of the 5 consulting groups that submitted compliant proposals. After those meetings, they were ranked. A consultant was deemed to be our primary choice. That consultant's proposal was, their price proposal was then opened. That was compliant. It was under budget. And so I understand the town and that consultant are in the process of finalizing a contract, standard agreement that's being negotiated between the town, the procurement department, and town council, and the consultant. And once that is completed, we will be in the position to announce who it is, any other details, and we'll be off and running, as it were, with the first phase of our master plan, that being assigning the general scope of responsibilities for everyone, and starting, although I imagine they'll already be starting to work on our existing conditions survey based upon all of the information that we have provided them.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Bolton? Seeing none, is there any other business to come before the board this evening? Yes, Mr. Peck.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I sent an email a few days ago, but just would welcome updates on the traffic study that's underway. Dale Weber, I'm not sure what to title it, but I know it's downtown all the way up to North Plymouth. And then a second update at some point from the convention center study. So there's two, major studies that have been going on for months, and we should be briefed on them at some point to see where it is, as Steve has just briefed us on master plan.
Okay.
So a suggestion or a request.
Thank you, David. Any other comments? If not,
I have
Oh.
one.
yes.
So there is going to be a motion on town meeting floor by Mr. Abbott to amend the language, a motion to seek to amend the language for accessory dwelling units. And what he wants to do is to say that it would only be allowed, it's interesting the way this wording is, but he's looking to limit it unless you're on municipal wastewater system. So it would really limit only to Plymouth Center and North Plymouth if this happens. So the motion is, his motion that he's looking for is to say you can do it, but it has to be serviced by municipal wastewater system. And about 10% of the town is served by municipal wastewater. So I bring this up because you have a couple of options. You can make this proposal and you can, just let town meeting deal with it. You could vote to take an official position on whether you support or oppose his proposed motion, and then also, if you want to, whether you care to speak at town meeting on his motion to amend.
Okay, what is the pleasure of the board? Yes.
Lee, I'm thinking that this piece of paper that you gave us with the motion might have a typographical error, because it says it's to prohibit ADUs in all residential and mixed-use zones. So all residential would be the whole town.
Yep, unless it's on wastewater. So to read the rest of that sentence, unless the parcel is serviced by wastewater.
No, I understand, unless it's serviced. I thought that in the discussions it was in the rural residential and mixed use.
That's not what he's submitted. So this one
Well-
looks like it's for everything.
So you're certain that it just says
Well,
residential?
this is what came out of the motion meeting today, so I
Okay.
believe this is the
Because
motion.
I looked at some of the motions meetings.
Yes.
And I said rural resident. I thought
Right.
it said rural residential.
That was the one I last saw too, but this is the one that was in the book this morning. I can double check to see.
Yeah, I think it might be typographical, because I think it's the RR zone that they are, that this group is targeting.
Yeah, I can't speak for Mr. Abbott, but I'm guessing maybe he's changed his mind and it's any
Okay.
property that's not on the sewer system.
Well, I'm confused by this because at the motions meeting and the group that's been working on this,
Well, if that's the case, it's apparent that we don't have the actual language.
This is the motion that was discussed this morning at the motions meeting. So,
Okay.
again,
So
I know
the-
Mr. Abbott had a different
The
discussion.
motion that we have in front of us says Bill Abbott from Precinct 16 moves to amend Article 14 to prohibit ADUs in all residential and mixed-use zones unless the parcel is serviced by municipal wastewater system. What percentage of the town is on the municipal system?
About 10%.
So we're going to try and pass an ADU with only 10% of the town being able to utilize it.
It's essentially Plymouth Center and North Plymouth.
That's not the intent of the ADU that we're presenting to the town meeting, in my opinion. What is the pleasure of the board?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, well, both with the original one, which Lee had shared with all of us, and this one, implicit in this, not explicit, but implicit, is a distrust of Title V systems. You know, so he quoted Kit Cod, and he said the nitrogen leaking Title V systems are not a good thing for Plymouth, and he put this in to protect the aquifer and all the ponds. But basically, he's saying that ADUs would be prohibited, but every other legitimate addition or even a new house in any of those zones which request a Title V, that's an approved Title V. This is sort of a backdoor implicit, you know, nothing that uses a Title V should be approved in any of the zones. And so I would fight, I would object to the amendment.
I would just point out, you could have a 5-bedroom house, but you couldn't have a 4-bedroom house and a 1-bedroom ADU. You could have a 6-bedroom house, but you couldn't have a 3-bedroom and a 1-bedroom ADU. So bedrooms are really the trigger, and there's nothing here that prevent from multiple bedrooms. It's just only if it's an ADU. You could have a 5-bedroom house and an in-law apartment. It's just focusing just on the ADU.
Yes, Ms. Keene.
So what David's saying is correct, and that Title V says an approved Title V system has no mechanism for filtering out nitrogen. The only way to filter out nitrogen is to put in what's called an innovative alternative septic system. And Plymouth has not been known for utilizing the IA systems. So, but the other aspect to this is, well, I have two things to say. People who are putting in ADUs most likely will have the capacity in their existing septic system to add one more bedroom, because replacing a septic system in order to put in an ADU is a financially difficult decision to make. It raises the cost of the ADU significantly, because it would have to service the entire house and ADU, because most likely 2 septic systems would not fit in most properties, particularly since they have to have a reserve. But I won't go into the details. The second thing I'd like to say is that this has been discussed at all of the caucuses now in depth, and my feeling is that this amendment should come to town meeting, and that town meeting should discuss it. And the planning board has the ability to talk about this, the amendment and what we originally passed. So I don't really see the point of us even taking a vote on this.
You would have to, because if it goes to town meeting and you don't take a vote, then you have no position on the amendment. And that's okay if you don't want a position. But again, you can't speak for the board unless the board votes to support or oppose a motion like this. So without that,
right,
you would be speaking as individuals, not as board members.
Okay. Well, I understand that perspective, and I'm still a little concerned about this wording. I mean, I'm not concerned that you transcribed it. It's just not what
Yeah, and
has
again,
been at the
it might
caucuses.
be worth it to give me direction on both the language that was talked about 2 days ago, which said you couldn't do it in the RR unless you were on a municipal wastewater system, and as well as this, and give me direction on both. So just in case, for whatever reason, the language that was given to me today was wrong, I have direction on this
Well,
language as well as the one that would limit it.
We can go round and round here, but we have what's written in front of us currently, and we can take a position on what's written in front of us if we so choose. If there's different language other than this, then we would have to meet
Well,
before,
again,
before town meeting at 7:30 if this language is,
We could, but
is changed.
Again, I think it's pretty clear, there are two possibilities. It's either this language before you that says it has to be on wastewater, and even this language, as I look at it, it has a problem, because the word prohibit is not gonna fit in the way the bylaw is written.
Even if it was strictly in the rural residential areas, as Ms. Keene has mentioned, I still would not be
Right,
supporting
and so
it.
that's why I would recommend that tonight you just give us direction on both those, whether it's saying that you can't do it in RR unless it's on wastewater, which is really in the RR zone, the only place that has that would qualify is Red Brook. It would be more or less a prohibition on ADUs and all the RR, but it would be great if you can give me direction on that, as well as this amendment before you hear it.
All right, I've been remiss. Mr. Bolton hasn't had a chance to. Would you like to say anything on this particular issue, sir?
Well, my feeling was that we voted unanimously as a board with respect to the proposed bylaw that we presented. I haven't heard any compelling argument for refusing to allow ADUs in any particular residential zone. I certainly, as part of the senior task force, have heard from the seniors that they are looking for this as an option potentially available to them for either their own use or to bring family, rather than an in-law apartment, which actually creates a great deal of complication given the deed restrictions that go with that and the lack of privacy. So I was in favor of the original bylaw that we proposed, and I remain in favor of the original bylaw that we proposed, and I do not see any benefit to the town as a whole with respect to this. I think, as Mr. Peck has stated, given the way this is phrased, which is in essence to say, I'm only applying this to ADUs, so if you have a two-bedroom house and you want to add a one-bedroom ADU, that's prohibited, but if you want to build a six-bedroom house on the same type of septic system, that's perfectly fine. And Ms. Keene is correct. There is a very limited way to reduce the nitrogen systems, and the state has not given us permission to mandate those systems. We simply can't. It's not part of the building code. It's not part of the new flex code.
Yeah. And I will say this, over the years, and Lee, you can back me up on this, anytime there's any residential development anywhere near a body of water, I always ask or request for a low nitrification system be installed in those cases. Whether that happens or not, and they go through the Board of Health and say they don't have to install this system, is a whole nother story unto itself. So it's not that the town isn't trying, or the planning board hasn't tried in the past, to try and install low nitro systems close to the aquifer, near the ocean, near bodies of water. Well, the whole town is sitting on an aquifer. So that's where we are. And instead of belaboring the fact here and spending another 45 minutes discussing these particular motions, I would request that we take a stand, make a motion, and move on from this. Because I support the original article that we sent to town meeting, and this does not meet that at all. And I've spoken to a lot of residents in my area that are aware of this ADU, and they're all getting to be my age. I'm 62 and getting a little older every single day, even though I might not look it. This is just from Men Gray that I use. But, yeah, they want to see this ADU be passed to give them the opportunity. Not that they will do it, but it gives them the opportunity. So that's where I am.
Well, whether it takes a single motion or two, as Lee said, I would make a motion that the planning board oppose
Either option. I would just say
Just either option.
Either amendment, yep.
Okay, so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, Mr. Peck?
Yes.
Ms. Keene?
I'm going to abstain because I really believe that at this point, town meeting should have this discussion, and it would be interesting for this board. to
Town meeting
remain
will
neutral.
have the discretion.
Oh, I know.
We're just
I
giving
know.
a recommendation.
I understand. I understand.
Okay.
So that's my abstention.
Mr. Bolton?
Yes.
And my vote is yes.
And then I'll leave it up to chair, vice chair, and the board, if you want to just tell Steve Trifoletti to add you as a speaker after that amendment is made, or who would like to speak after the amendment or motion to amend is made. So, and then that it doesn't require official vote from you. You have a position, so it's just up to the board if they would like to be heard. So you'll have a presentation made on the ADU, then a motion will be made to amend. Mr. Abbott will speak to that. He has an 11-minute video he wants to show. And then I think what you would do is ask Steve Trifoletti to be able to speak after that motion is made in opposition to it, and then go through the rest of the process that town meeting goes through when they
Well,
deliver.
as the presenter of the article, I would hope that would be the case. Anyway,
Say it again?
as the presenter of the original article, I hope that would be the case after we just made this vote, right?
No, yeah, so you'll make a presentation. I think David plans on making a presentation on behalf of the planning board on the ADU. Then there'll be a motion to amend with an 11-minute video that Bill Abbott will make. And then, again, I think what you would do is say to Steve, after that amendment is made, we'd like to speak to the amendment. And then you'd speak to the amendment. After that, then town meeting will deliberate on the amendment, and then the main motion, whatever that happens to be after that debate.
Yep. Yes, sir.
We just saw it today, and I shared it with Steve and Lee, but the senior task force voted unanimously to support this bylaw, and I just got a letter from Michelle Brady outlining that. And we've also received a letter of support from the South Shore Realtors, and one is coming from the Plymouth area Realtors. So that could be part of handouts at the front doors as people come in. So this, what Bill's raising and Birgit is talking about,
Well,
and you too, it's
it's
all important. but that
it's
is
the
part-
beauty of town meeting.
Yeah.
It gets debated, and there's nothing wrong with a good debate.
If I might say something.
Yep, sure.
So some of the group that is supporting this amendment wrote today that the video itself, I think, is copyrighted or has some sort of legal restrictions on playing it, or town council had said it couldn't be. So I don't think the video will be shown at town meeting, but it may be shown at, I think, presentation night's over. Anyway, so you might not see the video, which shows the
That's
the
just
impact.
disappointing.
Well, it shows the impact on our ponds and.
I'm sure
what
it
we're seeing.
does, yeah.
So, I'm really looking forward to this discussion on ADUs, which are supported for so many of the right reasons across the country. I mean, you can't pick up any architectural magazine or so without a support for ADUs or municipal. But the fact that it brings up the question of how this town has been regulating septic systems and what it's done to our ponds and our aquifer, at least it brings that discussion into a larger group. So I'm thankful for that.
Okay. If there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The planning board